whatever way it goes, we will be 100% in support of Northern Ireland remaining firmly within the European Union. We think it's good for Northern Ireland, it's the right way to go. And as for whether people are candidates or not, I'm here as the leader of NI21 speaking on behalf of the party.
Anna?
Okay, in terms of cuts, absolutely, there's no doubt we need cuts in Europe in terms of bureaucracy, in terms of energy consumption as well. Thinking all the staff going from Brussels to Strasbourg once a month, I mean, that's crazy in terms of, pollution and all that. In terms of referendum, we are totally against the referendum. We think just talking about it would undermine confidence of investors coming to Northern Ireland, coming into Europe. I think it's totally wrong, and we benefit greatly out of Europe in Northern Ireland. I'm not quite sure about the question about forcing business to be undermined.
No,
because
just
Europe
address the question with the referendum.
Yeah, okay. Well, Europe does not force us to build anaerobic digesters. What Europe does is to set targets that we are going to recycle more, we are going to have to reduce landfills, which is bad for the environment. So it's up to member states what they want to do in terms of managing their waste.
That's not right.
Okay, Martina, with respect
Well,
to
I
the
suppose,
referendum.
well, okay, any government has an opportunity to call a referendum, particularly if it's in the context of best practice, which obviously the referendum in Ukraine with regards to Crimea was not. So here in the north, the impact of such a referendum, if it were to be taking place and going forward, it does not reflect the best interest of us here in the north. And I don't think we're even being considered in the debate that's going on at the moment. Access to the free market economy benefits and is worth somewhere in the region of over 120 billion to Britain and to Ireland. I think it is economically disadvantaging us here in the north to have us as part of a conversation around pulling out. The impact that it would have on tariffs, 9 out of 10 SMEs export to the EU. Ireland's place is in Europe, north and south. And I think that the opportunities that we have and the benefits that we have by being part of an all-Ireland structure therefore starts to come into being. Because if the British government want to pull out of the EU, I think there will become more need for the conversation, the big conversation that we believe is required here about a border poll in Ireland and where the north would be located, because I think we would become an economic basket case if we were going to be associated with that very proposal if that was to go forward.
Okay, Dan.
Can I use the opportunity to just round up on a few thoughts that I haven't been able to come back in on? Basil talks about collaboration, and yes, drawing down European funds is about collaboration. One of the things that I have made an absolute priority is to try to disseminate information to SMEs. If you go onto my website, you will find a direct link to a site which gives you partners for collaboration for particular projects and for small and medium enterprises, and that is very important. In terms of cuts, yes, I did vote for a cut to the European Union budget. European Union budget is hugely overloaded, overbloated, it's over-bureaucratic. There are hundreds of EU officials who earn much, much more than the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. There is huge scope for downsizing the budget of the European Union. In the next financial cycle, in the next 7-year financial cycle, the European Union will have a budget that is just a few hundred million short of €1 trillion. That no one in this room can tell me that there isn't room for improvement in that particular budget. In terms of the referendum, that again is a debate that I think that we as a country should have. The democratic mandate for for our membership of Europe has actually run out. We need to have and allow our communities, our people, our families, our businesses to have a say on where we stand on the European Union. My party has championed this cause at Westminster. We were involved in one of the first debates in the Chamber on a referendum. We were taking 100,000 signatures with other people.
And will you be asking people to vote yes?
Well, I'll finish. I'll absolutely finish. People to Downing Street to ensure there was further debate, and we were signatories of the referendum bill. We support the efforts at reform and renegotiation. However, we are sceptical that the Prime Minister will be actually able to achieve that. And if there is not a significant package of reform on the table, then the DUP will be voting and asking people to vote against our continued membership.
So you don't think you'll be able to do it, and you're going to ask people to vote no?
Basil, I didn't interrupt you.
Yeah, but you have talked for quite some time,
I
so
didn't
if it's a
interrupt you, and
speech...
I'm going to address another issue that was actually brought up. We need to have a real debate about our membership of the European Union. We talk about our, maybe if this doomsday scenario that may well come about, and access to the market. Access to the market is hugely important. Europe represents one of our biggest trading partners. However, the Eurozone countries on their own do more trade with the United Kingdom than they do with all the growing and emerging markets right across the world. So anybody who thinks that the drawbridge is going to go up at Dover and the trade is not a two-way process is actually wrong. So what we need is a real informed debate about how we go forward in this particular issue, and we need to see how the Prime Minister fares out at his renegotiation. Okay. Although, Mark, I am disappointed that he has dropped the mention of renegotiation of the social chapter, which directly affects small businesses here in Northern
Mark
Ireland.
take up now.
Thank you, Wilford. Well, let's go back to cuts, really. In terms of cuts at Europe, the Prime Minister did negotiate a cut of 30 billion. But going back to my point today, at Westminster, they decide how each Northern Ireland, Scotland, England and Wales are allocated their European funding. The Prime Minister did not cut the Northern Ireland aspect of that. We maintained our percentage of cap. We maintained our budget allocation. We maintained that for Northern Ireland. That was maintained. So on the cut aspect, I just want to make that point very, very clear.
Do you want to just comment on the referendum?
Yeah, on the referendum, obviously, it is what it says in the 10. I'm Northern Ireland Conservative and absolutely support the referendum that will be offered in 2017. Although I'm from Northern Ireland, and absolutely, I'm aware of the fact that we are net beneficiaries of Europe and have been since 1989. And I'm in support of an in-out referendum. A reformed Europe, though, is what I am absolutely lobbying for, is the reform. And I'm confident that the Prime Minister will get a number of reform issues through. The reason why I'm confident, just before I finish off, is that Europe is now going through reform as we speak. The global market has changed. Europe has changed. Europe are having to look at the reform agenda right now. So there are a number of aspects that we will add to that in terms of the Prime Minister negotiating Europe, and I feel very confident that the Prime Minister will get us reform and we will then offer it to people. But just to finish off, I think we'll have to differentiate between what Martina is saying. There's a difference between two member states on the one island. Mm-hmm. So you can't contribute. Northern Ireland's a member of the United Kingdom, and in terms of Europe, they're a region of the member state of the United Kingdom, where you have the Republic of Ireland on the same island, who's another sovereign
And if the
state.
North was
So
located in an all-Ireland context, the North would do a lot better than what it's doing at the moment.
Every time I speak about Europe, I'm talking about Northern Ireland as a member of the United Kingdom, and funding that comes from Westminster as one of the 28 member states comes to Westminster, and it's allocated. So we need to be careful.
And we get the crumbs
we
to the
don't
table.
miss that.
Right.
We don't.
Okay.
Well, then you
miss
should
that.
be
Ross,
there, Martina, in
Ross,
Westminster, working for your constituents where it's appropriate to make these representations.
We are in Westminster, we're just not in the chamber.
I'm giving the floor to Ross here.
Okay, just to say, we can't avoid the connections that we have with other European countries. I mean, we've got all sorts of different issues that we need to resolve together, whether it be our economy, like issues like tax avoidance, whether it be energy policy, climate change, fishing. All these issues need to be decided at an international level. So as a party, we are strong supporters of solidarity and see the benefits of Europe outweighing the costs. However, we would like to see a referendum on Europe, because what has happened is that we have, in many respects, people have never actually had their say, and we've ended up with this debate, which is really, I think, is not healthy. For every time a European election comes around, there's another debate about whether we're in or whether we're out, and we need to resolve this issue once and for all. We will, of course, be campaigning for this, and as I say, we are strong supporters of the principle of direct democracy. Europe needs to become more directly democratic and legitimate, and I think that when you have issues like the tragedy of the commons, as I mentioned about all these issues of how we're interconnected, I think fundamentally we do need to change the direction that Europe is going, and we need to make it work for the interests of the common good.
Okay, finally, Henry.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I would say what cuts? Cameron come back with this claim that he had saved or cut 30 billion out of the European budget. Our contribution, the United Kingdom's contribution, actually increased by 2.5 billion. So we're paying for this folly through the nose. We're going out and borrowing money on the international money markets with a deficit of 200 billion a year, a net debt of 1.4 trillion. And we're still giving £56 million a day to the European Union to develop factories in Turkey so as they can build cars to export into the European Union. It is madness. It is absolute madness. The only way for the United Kingdom to regain control of its affairs is to leave the European Union. We're quite capable of doing it. We're the 6th biggest nation in the world in terms of GDP. We're the 10th biggest manufacturers. We have the ability to manage our own affairs. In terms of leaving the European Union, I don't trust the Tories. Cast iron Dave, everybody remember Cast iron Dave, that cast iron assurance that we were going to get a referendum in the last parliamentary term? Come off it. It's not going to happen unless there's parties like UKIP who can win seats in the next parliamentary election and hold the balance of power. You know, it's laughable to hear some MEPs who plot about those huge buildings in Europe on their own. They're loners and they've no influence, have no power to do anything. UKIP is the only party. UKIP is the only party that will have the ability to change things after this next parliamentary election in Europe. And through time, we will extract ourselves from the European Union, and we will run our own affairs, and we will make a far, far better job of running our country than what's happening at the present time.
I would certainly like to put my trust into David Cameron rather than Nigel Farage. I have to say that.
Okay.
Cast iron Dave. Cast iron Dave.
We've run well over our time. Wanted to be sure that everybody had felt they had an opportunity to present their views. And I have to say, this is the 4th Hustings election that we've led on the FSB, and I have to say this is the liveliest. And there's certainly more topics, but I think it's give a platform for all the candidates to go forward up until election time. They now know where the ground rules are.